Okay, so I cannot see anybody. Let me see if I can at least see a little bit of people. Makes me feel very weird when I can't see anyone when I'm presenting. Just a thumbnail. There we go. So hopefully if anybody turns on their mic, then they'll pop up to the top and I'll be able to see you. Um, so we're going to zoom through. I told people last night that this was kind of a fire hose presentation. Some of the things are things you all asked me to share, and others are things I've been jotting down for the last couple months. Oh, we need to talk about that. Okay, I see some people are confused about this. We need to talk about that. So there's kind of hopefully you all have the agenda in front of you, but let me go ahead and go to this first slide and I can just talk a little bit about the things that we're going to talk about. Policies and procedures, stuff that's not super exciting, but important for us to share and kind of review at the beginning of the year. Some club management tools and things that can support you in that. We're going to talk about county opportunities, make sure everybody's fully aware of all the things that their kids can get involved in at the county level. So hopefully launching them a little bit beyond the club. State opportunities, we've got some kids that are really taking full advantage of that. And we want to make sure everyone is aware. And then finally wrapping up with kind of what I think is the most fun part of this is the helping kids thrive and why we do what we do. Because, you know, we have all of our subject matter areas that we have a passion for or our kids enjoy. But overall, you know, what is the reason that we do youth development and that we offer these opportunities to kids? So the first one I'm going to start off with is one that you know, Giselle thought that would be good for us to share, and that is the use of the classrooms. Many of you never come to the extension office, and I get that some of you are always at the extension office. That's where you have your meetings. Some of you just have special events here, and that's okay too. Our facility, if you haven't been out there to check everything out, we've got 3 very nice classrooms, a beautiful exhibit hall, you know, a nice auditorium with a stage. So we have, you know, quite a nice facility, but it's in demand a lot. So we need to make sure that if you need it, you give us plenty of notice. Like we had a club, Exploding Beacon, that was looking for a date in December, and we, you know, the first choice wasn't available even in December. So it's really important, especially if you need multiple rooms, that we look ahead. We can't hold rooms, so we can't do a, hey, maybe we're going to do this date, so hold a couple for us, just because we have county government using it. We have all of our other agents in our office that are teaching classes. We have the university coming and using our facility. Sometimes we're so close to the airport, it just works out for them, as well as some of our partner groups like the Weavers, who are using it one Saturday a month and sometimes even the whole weekend. So it's very important that we, you know, that we be respectful of that, as well as, you know, planning ahead. If you are going to use our facility, you just need to have somebody who's going to come by during office hours to pick up the key, and that we can do a walkthrough. Usually, like if a group is going to use a lot of different rooms and they need to worry about sound and media and that kind of thing, you know, we're obviously going to take a little more time to get that you oriented to that, and then show you where the key drop would be and kind of what all the policies and procedures are. But making sure obviously that all of the rooms are locked, the lights are turned off, the blinds are left open. There's just procedures that we have to go through for security purposes, that we would want to make sure. Obviously that the rooms are left the way they were um, accepted. So set up in the default setting, and there's a guide on the wall in there if you can't remember where all the tables go. If you want to rearrange the tables, totally okay, but just always make sure everything's put back, because there could be a meeting in there 8 o'clock the next morning that their expectation is that the room is going to be set up the way it normally is. So we need to make sure that they find it that way. And, you know, whenever we do things with kids, I always have the Lysol wipes and I wipe down all the tables to make sure, in case anybody, you know, made any mess or had some little crumbs or anything, we want to make sure that we leave it, you know, clean. Some of our groups that are here that might be having a special event, you know, end of the year dinner or something like that. We need to make sure that no food gets left behind, because some, you know, no one knows whose it is. and it turns into a science experiment when it gets left in the fridge for a really long time and go, ooh, what is that? So we want to make sure that we don't leave anything behind, thinking that, oh, maybe somebody's going to eat it. Well, nobody's even going to know it's there. So take whatever you don't use with you. And then we have to take out the trash. So, like last night, volunteers were helping me. We bagged everything up so we could get it in the dumpster to make sure that we weren't going to, have bugs moving in. We have custodians that only come in on weekday evenings. They're not there on the weekends and they're not there during the day. So we have to make sure that, we kind of do that part on our own. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but if you have any questions you want to throw in the chat, I'm sure Giselle can answer those for you, to move on, because I know this doesn't apply to everybody. And then monthly reports, everybody's favorite thing. So my point here this evening is to please, please, please have pity on me and know that I have to report to the county and the state on volunteer hours, on how many kids we're reaching, how many kids you're reaching, not just what I do, but also what you do, and that, we're showing the impacts and the reach that we have in 4-H. Some of it is we want to make sure we keep getting funding, and everyone is very aware that that is not something we can take for granted these days. And remembering that when we ask for reporting of volunteer hours, that's any time that you're spending. If you're driving to and from, if you are on the computer, if you're posting things for Facebook, it doesn't mean just when you have your 4-H meeting. Because if you weren't a 4-H volunteer, you wouldn't be driving to and from the extension office. You wouldn't be going to Sam's or the grocery store to pick up things. So please, count all of those hours. And if you can get those in soon, because we have to report for the prior month, pretty early in the next month. So it's helpful if you can. And this is the thing I really want to make sure we drive home, is that it doesn't have to be you as the club leader. You can pick a responsible teenager. I mean, it's just a link that they click on the volunteer website. They can put it in. It's definitely not something complicated. They can take your roll sheets. You're going to add up all the meetings you had that month. If you had more than one, every time you count those kids. So if you met twice and you have 10 kids at each one, that's 20. If you guys also took a field trip and 7 kids went to that, then it's 27. So you would want to do that, and then have your volunteers just shoot you an email, text you, about how many hours they spent on 4-H work on that particular month. Some of you are really great about that. You have your volunteer hours, but please don't underestimate that. Like I said, it's not just when the time the meeting starts and the time the meeting ends. It's all of the time that's dedicated to something related to 4-H. For those of you who submit for Club Standards of Excellence Awards, I just want to mention that is one of the criteria, is doing that monthly report. So that will be kind of like a minimum level that has to be there in order for the club to be eligible for Standards of Excellence. But hopefully, and you can go back. Some people think, oh no, I missed September and October. What am I going to do? You can go back because you pick the month that you're reporting for. So you could literally do 3 months at one time. And we'd be very happy if, you're able to go back and do that. But we're starting fresh for this 4-H year. So you don't have to report until, October really, because we don't have August in for the 25-26 reporting. And then we ask that you do email us your minutes. You can have your secretary do that. It doesn't have to be you. And then if you could send us over, your roll call or attendance, or if that's part of your minutes, which ideally it's in there, then that's great too. And then this link is available in the volunteer resource site, the Google site that I have. And I am going to share that with you later, because hopefully most of you are using it. At the meeting last night, virtually everyone said that they have used it, because we try to have everything there that you might need, and links to things, and try to make it user friendly, because it's easy for me to go in and like update it on the fly. It's kind of an unofficial site. Our official site's very basic, but this one is, to be a resource for you all. All right, payment requests. So we're shifting gears here. I sent out documents for all of you guys, and I know it's a little bit harder because everything's on the computer, but there was a paper in there, and the title of it was, I'm going to pull mine out, what's acceptable for payments. And of course, it's going to be buried down here. I just want everybody to be aware because I recently even became aware of some things that I didn't realize that perhaps we were out of compliance in the way we were doing them. But it's payments to others, 4-H guidelines, frequently asked questions. So I have on this page here the IRS and the 501c3 approved, just to drive home the message that we are a 501c3. So we have our own EIN number, our employer ID number, that we file taxes under. We are also under the Florida 4-H Foundation. So if you go to Sunbiz, that's who you're going to see. You're not going to see Orange County 4-H, but every single county in the state has their own EIN under that umbrella. As a 501c3, we have to follow the same laws that any other nonprofit does in terms of money handling. When we raise money and when we spend money, particularly, that's super important. So if you're able to look at this paper, I don't know if you're on your phone, this is going to be like way too many things for you to do at once. But I just want to kind of review some of this, that all funds raised, earned, or otherwise obtained using the 4-H name and emblem are property of the University of Florida IFAS Extension 4-H Youth Development Program. So make sure you realize that anything that's purchased with club funds, if it's an item that you keep, we don't want it, but it belongs to UF if at some point in time your club is no longer using that or your club folds. It can either come back to us or we can pass it along to another club. But all funds that are raised are to further the educational goals of 4-H and ideally the kids that are currently in the program. So we have some clubs that carry forward a lot of money. You could carry forward some because might have a plan. Oh, we're saving for this thing, or we have this event that we host every year, and we need to make sure that we can front the costs in case we don't break even or we don't make money on it. And that's okay. But we want to make sure that this is, nonprofits are not supposed to build up a war chest of money, but it needs to be funds raised for a particular educational purpose for the youth that are involved. Um, I'm not going to go through all of these things, but one of the things it says particularly is um, we cannot give direct payments to youth for, oh, we're just going to divvy up our fundraising this year and everybody gets $50. We can say they're going to have $50 towards project expenses, or $50 that we will sponsor them to go to camp or go to 4-H University or go to a swine showmanship clinic, or anything that's got an educational purpose, and the club could submit that, or after the youth attend something or maybe they purchase something for their project, they can submit receipts, and then the club, we could reimburse the youth for those expenses. But we can't just write checks to individuals. That is definitely not allowed with a 501c3. What I recently learned is that we can't even do that for college scholarships. It has to go to the entity, like even if it's a trade school, whatever it might be, some kind of vocational, post-secondary, we are supposed to write the check to the institution or to a 529. Now, I realize, not everyone's got a 529, but we're going to have to try to, do that type of thing. And I mean, it's very doable once someone knows where they're going to school, and they just give us the address. Hey, the financial aid office on behalf of, where do we need to send it? But that's what we need to do. So if you particularly have a club, maybe that oh, all our seniors, we give them $100, that's supposed to be used towards college. Maybe that might be, maybe you might do that a different way. Maybe, it might be to reimburse for project expenses and then basically offsets money that they had been saving for school. And we'll work with you on these things, but I just want to make sure that we all realize that we can't. And the other thing that we can't do that's closely related to that is we can't say, oh, this family had a fire at their house and we want to help them. So we're going to do a fundraiser and then we're going to give them the money. We cannot do that. We cannot raise money, deposit it in our nonprofit, and immediately turn around and write a check to a family. We aren't that kind of nonprofit. That's not our mission. That's not our purpose. We're education. So there's other things you can do and there's ways you can help, but we just can't do that. And so if those are the kinds of things that might be coming up in your club program and you want to talk about how we can stay on the right side of the IRS, well, we can talk about that because there's ways that we can package things like perhaps there's a community service project and it's actually a service project that the youth are planning, but it's going to require some money and you have to buy some things because you're doing something for the benefit of someone else or for the community. Well, then that's an educational purpose. So you see where we can work with some of those things. But the thing that I want to make sure that everybody realizes is that if we were to run afoul of the IRS, we could have our nonprofit status pulled and we will never get it back. So there will be no 4-H association. There will be no way for us to raise funds as a nonprofit. We won't be able to operate with your club accounts the way we do. Like all of that would go away. And like I said, some of the recent training I've been in, they've been really sending that message home that we need to be sure that we are doing things exactly as we are supposed to. Like I said, we do file taxes every year. We don't pay taxes, but we have to be accountable for all the money that comes in and all the money that goes out and the categories of what those expenses come under and the justification for those. So if we were audited, we need to be completely above reproach. If you look on the back of this paper, and like I said, you may or may not have this in front of you, um, it gives you some things you can do. You can issue a specific prize award premium. So maybe everybody at the fair that got blue ribbons on their project animal when they showed in their class, that the club was going to award them each a $25 premium. Well, that's tied to an educational purpose. And particularly if that's voted on in the minutes that everyone will get that, then that's great. And hopefully that's, something that they can put back into their project. Or we're going to reimburse everyone in the club $100 to offset their feed expenses for their market hog. And then what they would do is they would submit the receipts and then they could get reimbursed for that expense. That is absolutely acceptable because it's related to the educational purpose. So it's not that we can't do anything, it's just that we have to make sure that we're doing it appropriately. Because I know everybody's got the right mindset, your heart's in the right place. We just have to make sure that we're doing all right. So do we have any questions on this? Because this, I got a lot of questions last night. And you can always email me later, by the way, if anything pops into your head or you don't want to ask the question, right now. But if you do, I can't see the chat, so you'll have to unmute.
You were referencing a document, like front and back of a document. Is that something that you could be shared as a link in the chat?
Um, I don't have the link handy. It would take me a few minutes to get to it and put it in there for you. But I know, Seth, you weren't on my list of people signed up tonight. So I sent it to everyone who I
Oh,
had their email address, but
that's
I
fine. I'll
can,
get it from Carrie.
yeah, Carrie has it and I can also send it to you after the meeting. I can send it to you. Yeah.
Sounds.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and keep moving on then. Zoom goes faster than in person. All right. So managing risk. Um, we always want to address this. I do have one document that I sent. Sorry, Seth, I'm going to refer to these a couple of times, but it's the care, custody, and control. It's I got an orange paper, okay, an orange paper that basically asks some. It's like a flow chart of questions and how you need to know who's in charge of the kids. Most of the time, we are going to be required to have the 2 level 2. You're having your club meetings. For community clubs, that's pretty much going to be the default. But if you've done your youth protection training and quiz already, I did mine yesterday. It definitely reminds you about those youth to adult ratios. It reminds you about the two deep, even when you're online and all those kinds of things. So I'm not going to really go into that too much because the vast majority of you on here, if not all of you, are level 2 screened. So you're having to go through that process and you're going to have to, you have to renew that training every year. Even me, even Giselle, we have to do it too. And so it's a good reminder of us, for some of those things. But just want to make sure everybody knows that with accidents, all of our youth are covered with an accident illness policy from American Income Life. It's basically secondary medical coverage up to like, can't remember, it's 5,000 or 7,000 out of pocket, but it's a kind of a nice balance to, in our world of high deductible medical plans, it could cover what you would have out of pocket, that your insurance didn't cover. And like I said, all the kids, once they are approved in 4-H Online, once again, another reason we want to make sure you don't have any kids in your club that are coming to things that didn't sign up. They need to make sure they do. And really, you as club leaders are the ones that are going to know that. Every once in a while, we find out midway through the year, at the end of the year, we're like, wait a minute, this child wasn't in 4-H Online. What happened here? And all of that time, your protection as a volunteer and their protection under this accident illness policy would not have been in effect because they are not in, 4-H Online. We haven't followed the rules there with that. Um, I like to mention too, and by the way, there's a form you fill out. I recently worked with a family that had a couple of different medical claims. It's, working with insurance companies is never fun. It's never fun, but they did get reimbursed and did get paid back for that. Um, but property and personal liability. So this is something that can kind of be confusing, and I just like to review it every year, make sure people understand that as a volunteer, once you're approved in 4-H Online, you're good to go, then you are protected from being sued personally as long as you are following all of the, youth protection policies and 4-H policies from being sued personally. They would have to sue the state because you're considered like an employee as a volunteer of the University of Florida. However, as a property owner, you are not protected. UF does not indemnify anyone's personal property. So your vehicle, your home, your farm, you know, these places where you may have youth meeting, that would be something you need to understand.
Melinda, can you hear me? I have no sound for you all of a sudden.
Yeah, she definitely froze.
I think she froze up. I would say just give it a minute.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
Well, while she's frozen, I'm going to jump in and say that keep that in mind when you're having meetings during the summer. Because even though the 4 H year starts in August and technically it starts officially September 1st and technically ends August 31st, sometimes when you're holding meetings or gatherings over the summer, especially when we're talking the month of August, it can get sketchy about whether it falls into the new year or the old year. And if you have new club members coming to an August meeting who are not in 4-H Online, they would not necessarily fall under that umbrella. So that's why usually we tell people, hey, first meetings are going to be happening in September, because then technically the new year has started. If you have new people interested in coming and joining, they can attend a meeting and then we can get them into 4-H Online, versus if you're having stuff in August, sometimes it can muddy the waters.
Hey, Giselle, I think Melinda is not
Is
on
trying to
here.
get back on. Yes, I know.
Oh.
She's texted me.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Wow. So I'm glad I made Rhonda and Giselle. It's just like, whoop, no warning at all. I don't know if I froze first, but
Yes, you were
anyway,
frozen. So you left off at the umbrella of protecting the places where they're holding the meetings, and I added in that sometimes when we have meetings in August for the start of the new year, it can muddy the water, because even though technically September 1st to August 31st, but if there's new members joining who aren't in 4-H Online, those are things you may want to take into account. So that's why we're always sharing that first meetings are usually happening in September for the most part.
yes. And we want to try to make sure we get those 2 level 2 volunteers on board so you guys are all good. I mean, we know that people are going to meet like outside, but just know that you're just meeting as friends. It's not an official 4-H club meeting if we don't have everybody in 4-H Online and the volunteers approved. All right, so I'm going to move on here, and hopefully you guys don't lose me again. If you do, Rhonda can just jump in and start teaching. Okay, Rhonda, if I if I fall off again. Um, so collecting and handling funds, I've kind of talked a little bit about that money, but that's another managing risk. And so we're trying to help you guys with that by doing more things through 4-H Online. So that is, the more we can do dues and all of those things through 4-H Online, the better. Then you don't have to handle that money. And, we're trying to work with you to try to make that as easy as possible. And then hosting events and youth protection, just thinking if you're hosting something outside, and some of you don't do anything like that, and others of you do amazing things, like East Orange Livestock and their Barnyard Bash and Exploding Bacon, teaching coding in the summer. I mean, there's definitely things that you guys do, and we're going to do all the things we can to support you in that and make sure that we have all our ducks in a row, any, the legal stuff and and the liability and all those things taken care of. So any questions on this before we move on that maybe Giselle didn't already get for you? Okay. So clover buds, I, you know, thought that maybe it might be a good time to just remind people who have got these little guys in there, and I love them. We had a fun time at camp this summer with clover buds. But there's a lot of restrictions on what they're allowed to do in 4-H. I have the little green participation ribbon here to remind us all that they don't compete, they just participate. And to remind everybody too, because I've had some people ask, hey, well, if they turn 8 like in October or November, then can they go ahead and do a pig, or can they do, archery, or can no? Unfortunately, they are that 4-H age the whole year. And I tell everybody, I have a September birthday kid too, so I get it. They're just going to have to wait that extra year, but then you know what, they get more at on the backside. So tell them that, they get a little more on the backside. But yeah, so that is going to be their 4-H age the whole time in terms of what they're allowed to do. And so they can't have direct contact at 4-H sponsored events with livestock or horses. Do we know that at non 4-H events? Yes, probably at their home, right? They're probably still doing things with some livestock, or they're probably still riding horses. But for at official 4-H events, that would be one of those things where that would be outside of our policies and would kind of remove that umbrella of protection of liability and all of that. So we have to just kind of play by the rules with that with the clover buds, and then they finally do get to be 8, and then they're super excited and they get to do all the things. And some of them, man, they hit 8 and it's just blows wide open. They do all the things. And then the participation. So for clover buds, it's just positive feedback, helping them, hey, anything you do, we're super excited, great job, and you get that participation ribbon, and we want to give them that encouragement because developmentally at that age, that's what's most appropriate for them. Does anybody have any Cloverbud questions?
I was going to chime in and say that I want to just throw it out there to all the leaders is that we can help with certificates. There are some clubs who reach out to us and they want us to make certificates. If that's something that you need or want for your Clover buds, obviously give us some time to create what you need with a list of who you need it for, but we can definitely make those and mail them or have you pick them up, whatever we can do to support you in terms of that encouragement, especially for your Clover buds who don't get some of the bigger stuff.
Yes. Let us know what you need. And I think we are going to we're going on to club management tips and support. And I'm going to start off. So Rhonda, what would you like me to do? Would you like me to let you share, or do you want me to go over to your PowerPoint for you? Oh, you're muted.
My first day every time I use this. If you wouldn't mind running the PowerPoint for me, that would
Yes,
be great.
I can do that.
Okay.
And so I asked Rhonda to share this topic because she's been particularly good at creating a budget, and she's going to share with you how that can really help streamline your function in your club, and then also how she does some of her annual planning. So let me pull up her presentation.
So, greetings, everyone. I'm Rhonda Fitzgerald with OC Explorers. I'm going to walk you through the budget that our club used, not that we won't be using this year, but that we used last year, covering how we planned to raise funds and spend our money to support our projects, events, and goals for our club. All right, so
I'm trying to get you. Sorry, I'm trying to get you in. Stuff's covering all my tools.
Oh,
I'm trying to get you in presenter mode here. Here we go. Okay.
okay. So next page, please. All right, so budget goals. Consider your expenses and deposits. What things do you buy for your club members? We purchase rocket motors. We fund expenses to attend certain rocket shooting events, crafting supplies for like game board crafting, for trifold crafting. We do a lot of that stuff in our club meetings. So we want to supply the kids with a lot of things to encourage them to do their projects and submit things to the fair and county showcase. Additionally, how many youth will enroll in your club? Do you have a cap on membership? You will need to estimate this for club dues deposits in your budget. So, for example, our club, we typically cap at 15 club members, especially if we have a lot of younger kids. We our projects are really hands-on building rockets, and there's a lot of sharp knives involved, or craft knives. So we have to be really careful, making sure adults are helping these kids. The older kids can typically do this on their own with limited supervision, but the younger ones really need you to help them. So that's why we cap it. If we have mostly older kids, then we'll open up to a few more younger kids and go beyond the 15 youth. What expenses will you have? Will you fund community service expenses? Will you cover fair or show costs for members, t-shirts, or curriculum? We budget about $10 per book for curriculum books. Typically, we purchase t-shirts for the youth and allow the parents to purchase additional t-shirts for themselves. We have purchased attendance spots at community service events to sell poinsettias or to speak to the community about our club. So that's how we've spent some money in the past. Also, saving for future events or trips. You should have an idea and list it in your budget. We have a pretty small club. We don't carry over a huge balance, though to us, we carried over about $750 this year. So that felt like quite a bit to us, but we charge low dues. We try to keep them low because we encourage the kids to sell poinsettias. And I will tell you, we've made a lot of money in our club on poinsettias. So if I say it multiple times, is because you have an opportunity in your club to make money for the kids, for your club, selling those poinsettias. Our budget is designed to support all the exciting things we do, from purchasing supplies for club projects to service work. And you can also include county fair costs if you have anything like that. Put thought into your budget. It's better, in my opinion, to over budget than to under budget. Because if you under budget, then you have to go back to your club meeting. You have to vote on amending the budget. How much do you need to amend your budget by? Which categories? So typically, I will try to over budget. We did, I think, have to vote on one amendment last year, but typically I try to over budget because I don't want to have to go back and do that. And the funds end up staying in your club anyway. It's not like those funds are gone if you over budget. All right, next slide, please. All right, now consider your income sources. You look at your starting club balance, your member dues. Do you have any donations that you'll be receiving every year, or sponsorships? Poinsettia sales, fundraising. So if you do anything beyond poinsettia sales, I don't know if there's anything else that's approved by 4-H, but you have to get prior approval by the extension office to make sure everything's going according to their rules. We typically don't toe dip in any of that stuff. We have only done poinsettia sales, and we have in the past sold water at the Master Gardener's plant sale. We didn't do that last year, and I don't know that we'll do that going forward, just because it's a long day for the kids, and we had some conflicts last year with other things going on. But all that kind of stuff has to be approved by the extension office. Additionally, you can count in if your club has received Standards of Excellence funds. Those can help buy things for your club or other awards. We've received funds for selling the most poinsettias in our club, and also for the peanut butter challenge, collecting the most peanut butter. Those are great awards to help fund things for your club, like the t-shirts, because t-shirts can get expensive. Anything else that you can come up with for income sources. Each club is different. I don't know anything about for the most part, about the other clubs. You know what your club has for income and what you have for expenses. Most of our club funds come from dues, poinsettia sales, and club awards. Community donations may apply to your club. All income and expenses must be documented and deposited with 4-H to align with the IRS regulations for a 501c3, just as Melinda spoke about earlier. Club dues can now be collected in 4-H online to make the process easier for the leader, treasurer, and the family members. Especially if you start collecting dues from a lot of kids or parents on one day, it can be a lot. You've got kids, you've got adults, you've just got chaos with a lot of money involved. I recommend using 4-H online to collect your dues. It can make it less stressful, and use the tools that they have provided to us. It's life-changing. All right, next, please. Thank you. Expenses. Some of the expenses that we have are project supplies, like our rockets and our motors, project books or curriculum, fair registration fees. We haven't had any of those. Community service, club shirts, swag, parties, and food. We have an awards ceremony at the end of the year just for our club, and we hand out awards and ribbons and officer pins and other pins for projects. Event expenses like rocket shootings or field trips. We have those kind of expenses. Leader fees for rocket shooting. So we really need, in our club, we need to have at least one club leader who has a National Association of Rocketry membership. So in the past, my husband and I have paid for that ourselves. And last year we said, you know what, we've got enough money in the club. We really need to have this for the club. So we're going to go ahead and pay for that. And the new club leader is going to get a membership for herself this year. Also, 4-H healthy 5K expenses. We have funded those in the past for our club members who wanted to walk the healthy 5K with us. So, you know where your money is spent on an annual basis. Sit at your kitchen table, scratch out these things and, compare to what you spent last year. They will vary depending on the type of club that you manage. Every club, again, is different. All right, next. So your budget balance, you'll start out with your total income, which is your last year's balance coming forward, plus whatever you're collecting this year. Then you're going to subtract from that total expenses to come up with your projected surplus at the year end. Last year, I expected that we would have about $50 left over, and we ended up with $750. So we did pretty well last year. We had, some extra income compared in points out of sales compared to what I was expecting. And I can't remember what else, but we did okay last year. You can estimate how much you should have at the end of the year based on your income and expenses. The goal of the club is not to end up with a large savings account of money. The point is to use the funds to manage the club. We've always tried to charge the least amount for our dues, but cover the expenses per youth and charge dues based on that. We are grateful for the poinsettia sales every year because it enables us to have a savings cushion for unexpected expenses and extra things we forgot to budget for. So I believe 2 years ago, I was thinking it was last year, but 2 years ago, we had to purchase a canopy because going out in the heat, shooting rockets is not fun for most people. My husband doesn't mind it, but I don't like to be in the sun a lot. So we purchased that, and it's $100, and the poinsettia sales helped with that. So poinsettia sales are your friend, and it's really good for 4-H. All right, next slide, please. This is an example of our club budget from last year. So I estimated, I hadn't received our report from Jennifer yet. So I estimated that we started out with about $1,000. Then we had received $100 that I deposited with 4-H. That was a donation from a neighbor for peanut butter challenge cash they gave us to buy peanut butter. I estimated we'd earn about $500 selling poinsettias. Club dues, 15 youth at $40 a piece was $600. And we were going to do water sales last year for $100, so $1,300 in income. Then I expected that we would have 2 pizza parties, $100 a piece, so $200. Project manuals, workshops, books, rockets, supplies. We estimated $800. Our health walk, we estimated to be $150, and I think that's about what we paid. Awards or scholarships, so awards and ribbons of $100 for our year-end party. Community service activities, $50 for the Conway Market. T-shirts, we estimated $350, and TARC fees that we had to pay from a TARC club that we had of $165. Shooting rockets, also, I thought it was a good idea if we purchased a medical kit, so that was $28. Reimbursement of youth project related expenses for $400 from poinsettia sales. So we have We offer the top 3 in our club in points out of sales to get money reimbursed to them towards project specific expenses if they meet certain criteria. So I have an addendum to our bylaws that lists out certain things that they have to do. It, in addition to attending like 75% of our club meetings, they have to sell a minimum of 10 poinsettias. There's a laundry list of things. So in order to get any money reimbursed for project expenses, they have to meet those goals. So last year I was expecting us to have expenses of $22.43 and a balance of $57. All right. I don't think I had any speaker notes on that. Okay. The next one, final tips on budgeting. I handed out a hard copy for everyone of the budget form that we use. We just found it online. It was from Iowa, I think Iowa 4-H, a couple years ago. There are various forms available online. A lot of folks are great with Google and Excel. They have budget forms that you can use there. Give it to one of the older youth to use. They are capable of doing, spreadsheets and things like that. Just make sure that you have backed up all your electronic data, copies of your budget, and any amendments must be provided to the extension office for your club file. All right. So we always give that stuff. And even if you make an addendum, if you have to amend your budget, that has to be supplied to the extension office also. All right. Let's see. Are there any questions? Or no, I'll hold questions until after the club calendar. All right. So next is the club calendar. We provide our families a club calendar at the first meeting every year. And when I prepare the club calendar, I first add all of our regularly scheduled meetings. Then I add in pertinent events from the Orange County 4-H calendar. I then go in and add rocket shooting dates for special events like the game board workshop, trifold workshop. And then I beg and plead for a parent who's really good at Excel or something to that nature to make me a printed version of this that has different colors on it, so it's easier for people's eyes to see it. So, like I said, our calendar's handed out to all families at the first meeting. We also add events on our Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group. Giselle is part of it. We have all the events on there. They're always up to date. Rocket shootings, they can be canceled the morning of the rocket shooting. I can't call everyone and tell them. I communicate via Facebook. So we will update the Facebook event if the rocket shooting is canceled. So people need to look there. I don't have the time or ability to contact everyone individually by text or email. That is my chosen form of communication, is the calendar and the Facebook group. All right, questions and discussions. Do you have any questions or any budgeting or calendar techniques that anyone else would like to share? No? All right. I can't hear anyone. Can you hear me? Oh, you
Yes.
can. Okay. All right.
Yep. Sorry.
That's okay.
I did something that made my whole screen fill with your PowerPoint and I couldn't get to my unmute.
No worries.
Like I said, working off the laptop and doing the multiple things is hard. I don't know.
I was like, oh
So
no.
yeah, thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
I think sometimes it's helpful to hear from another club leader instead of just being me all the time. But what I was thinking is we are at 7:37. Maybe some of you need a stretch break, but what I'm going to do right now, if you have seen the volunteer website and you use it all the time, the volunteer resource site, then run to the restroom, get a drink or whatever, and then I'm going to jump back into the presentation. But I want to make sure those who are not familiar with it have had a chance to see it. So I may or may not end up just talking to myself, but that's okay. Let me pull that up. All right. So you can get around in this either on the left-hand side or down here, the things are clickable. But I update this just at, like I said, on the fly as we go. Here's the annual club volunteer survey. If you haven't done that, would love to have you do that because we like to get feedback on how things are going in your club. It's anonymous, but I still use that feedback to assess how things are working with the things that you all are doing for kids in your club. So would very much appreciate it if you guys click that at some point, and do that if you want to open it now, and then you can go back to it later. But what we've got here
Right.
is on the home page, the main thing, besides your menu are some buttons down here. Link to the monthly report. Look at that. It's just right there, super easy to get to. If you want to go to Shop 4-H, if you want to download the Clover, if you want to get the calendar, the most updated version, this Northwest 4-H District website, they just have a lot of good resources there. Florida 4-H events, I'm going to show you their page in a little while. I added, someone requested that we add the club list in case you wanted to share that with somebody else. That is here. This is not a website for the general public. It doesn't meet all the ADA requirements and all the things that but this is an in-house resource for us. So I wouldn't be sending, new families that are interested here, but you could certainly download a club list and share it with them. Some of these other sites, I'm going to take you to and show you those a little bit later. But if you just want to know, okay, where is that form? Standards of excellence, project report, club management would be things like, a blank agenda or your club bylaws. I'm going to talk about the bylaws in a minute. Poinsettia sale info, that is not updated yet, but it will be soon because poinsettia sales open October 1. So I've got to get on that. We've got activity scholarship applications, award nominations, and those, are pertinent in June because that's when we had you guys, or May or whatever, submit all of those so we could give our awards away like we did a few weeks ago at our awards program. So these are all frequently used things. If you click over to 4-H events and programs, you will see that whatever the latest version, Central Florida Fair Guidebook, it's helpful, but it hasn't been updated yet for 2026. And we do have some new contests that I will talk about. But there are some other resources here for events that are at the state level as well to help just give you a quick link there. Club management tools. We have got another way to get to the Florida 4-H volunteer resources. And then this is I'm going to put a link to this in the chat, by the way. I need to do that. Giselle, could you put a link to that in the chat? Are you still there?
To the first meeting or to the
No,
resource that
just to the website, the volunteer
I
resource.
already did?
Oh, thank you so much. So you can come here, you can click on this, and this is a UF housed kind of e-learning modules on how to plan your first meeting. If you're new at this, or maybe it's your second or third year and you're thinking, wow, that would be super helpful. Your club charter form, your fillable or your downloadable bylaws. What else have we got in here? The club participation certificate. You can ask Giselle to make them for you, or you can download them and you can hand fill them in yourself. And then if we go over to the learning, this recorded, oh, you know what? I don't know if it's still being recorded. I hope it is.
It is.
Okay, thank you. I was afraid when I fell off the meeting, it stopped. Okay, so this will also be uploaded because here we see we've got the 2024, the 2023, 2022, 21. And if you look, there's topics listed. So if there's something I didn't cover tonight, because we do try to do the basics, but then also do something a little bit different each year, you could look in here and see where maybe there would be something that would be helpful. If you go down a little further, maybe you want to show your families this little short 5-minute what is 4-H. Okay, that's there. Record books, that's always helpful to people. The county showcase, that one gets really popular as we're getting closer to showcase, to teaching kids how to do their demonstrations and illustrated talks and standards of excellence. So there's a lot of stuff that's here already, and we will continue to add to it. 4-H online, quick link to it, cross-county membership forms, volunteer roles in case you're not really sure how to classify what it is you're doing, and then just some FAQs. I need to expand that a little bit more. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that this is there for you and, can be super helpful to you when you're looking for something and, we're not there, or you just need to download something to provide. So all right, I am going to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint and try to stay on schedule. So looks like I got a little bit out of sync. Yep. All right, club bylaws. All I want to say about the club bylaws, I'm having a hard time getting that out, is that you want them to include the important things, but you don't want them to be so specific that you have to change them every year. Because bylaws are really not supposed something that should have to be changed every year. And by Robert's Rules of Order, if you're going to update your bylaws, there needs to be at least a 1 meeting notice where everyone has a chance to see the changes. And then at the next meeting, you vote on them and they require a 2/3 vote. That's probably not going to be a problem to get your kids to all be in favor of it. But like I give the example of the fact that you might have in your bylaws that your club is going to collect dues, but you could specify that the amount of those dues would be voted on at the first meeting of the year. So you don't say in your bylaws, our dues are $30 and then next year they're going to be $40. Just make it so that you don't have to actually change that. So try to think of ways that you can make them a little bit more general. But you saw on the volunteer website that there is a template if you don't already have bylaws, but that's one of those things that we need turned in to get your club chartered and ready to go. All right, county opportunities. Some of you are very aware of these and others maybe not as many. So I want to talk a little bit about record books. I would love to have every youth turning in a record book because that's kind of the evidence of their project work and also a way for them to get recognition. And when they turn in a record book, then they become eligible for standards of excellence as well. So it's kind of that base thing that really we should be encouraging all the kids to do. And one of the things I noticed, I shared with you all a copy of the senior record book score sheet, just as an example, is the very first thing that a lot of kids I was noticing were losing points on is that what I want to learn this year. So what we want them to do is to write some SMART goals. So we want the goals to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And if you guys want to see some more about SMART goals, there might even be something in one of those recordings already, but you can find it online too. But we want to teach them to write goals like that, but also like, for instance, we need to be specific. It says here that the senior age, they should list 2 project goals and 2 life skill goals. So 2 of those goals, if they're doing archery, would be related to archery, but 2 of them would be life skill. And this wheel here that's on this slide gives you examples of all the 4-H life skills. And I love the way they put them under the head, heart, health, and hands and kind of categorize them, but lots of choices of things that kids can set as goals for themselves to improve on their communication skills or on their problem solving or on their stress management, or, all it's just, you can see how many that they can choose from there. And then they're going to report on it under their project activities. What this should be is, what are the things they did to help them reach those goals? So we don't want to write goals and then have a complete disconnect and then nothing else ever talks about those goals again. Because the goals are what we're trying to teach kids should be driving their learning, and the things that they're getting, they're involved in, is to help them to achieve those goals. Citizenship, those are community service things that they do, leadership experiences, those I don't really need to go into a lot. Exhibits and competitions, I'm going to talk a little bit about those opportunities we provide for them to be able to get all those full points and, and be able to complete that part of their book. But the evidence of project learning is where some of the kids really struggle. That project records, it's 25 points. And if you don't have something there, it's going to be very difficult to get, a red or, especially a blue ribbon on their project book. So what that needs to be is either that supplemental book, or maybe it's they're all their animal record keeping, or perhaps it's activity sheets or something that relates to the different project related things that they did. So maybe they went to a clinic, or maybe you all, they learned about, the parts of an animal and they have that worksheet and that's in their project book. So there's different things they can put in there. Like with my pet club kids, I always have some kind of a handout or activity that they do that relates to whatever it is we're learning at that club meeting. So even if they don't do a dog book or, a small pets book or a cat book, they still have those to support as their project records to show that they were learning things about pets in the club. And then of course including pictures and writing that project story. And I always tell people that as a parent, my two kids going all the way through 4-H, and I have their project books from the time they were 5 till the time they were seniors in high school. And it's just really special to look through those and see the things they did, and, their 5-year-old handwriting, and, their cute pictures, and, and all the way through, and how much they've achieved and grown, and that they can see that growth as well. So big proponent here of project books, and I hope that you'll really, really encourage your kids to do that and complete those and have that evidence of all their project work. I'm not planning on talking a lot about standards of excellence, other than I put it in here just to remind everybody that these are a way for your kids to go deeper engagement and to show those higher levels involvement. But bronze and silver, very easy for them to attain. You just need to look at those standards. They do a record book, they attend 2/3 of the meetings, they set their project goals, and they did a presentation in their club. Bam, they've got a bronze. Silver would just be that they did community service projects and maybe had some leadership role. For young children, that might even just be pledge leader. That could just be being on a committee. It doesn't have to be that they're president or the treasurer of the 4-H club. Gold and emerald take planning. Definitely beginning of the year, they want to map out how they're going to get there, particularly for seniors. They've got to do a lot as seniors. And then activities and competitions, I want to mention, they can only be in there once. So some of the times we see the kids and they're putting the same thing in multiple places, and they can't do that. But then I also see sometimes where maybe they missed something, or they put something in a place that wasn't to their best advantage. So if you need help with that, we can help you. But also on that volunteer website, there's a whole presentation on standards of excellence that you might want to, direct to, or maybe show little bits of it in your club meeting or something. But the purpose of doing this, all the things we do are part of our youth development grand scheme to help kids grow and thrive. And the intent is to get them more deeply engaged in project work. So we set up these awards and these recognition levels to help them aspire to do that one more thing, or to give that county level presentation, or to go speak to this community group about 4-H, when maybe they might not have been inspired to do that, without having that kind of carrot there to recognize their hard work. Clubs that are submitting SOEs need to make sure that they're submitting documentation, just, roll calls, your club calendar, those kinds of things to include that in there. And then any of you who have applied for the volunteer award, I will be updating. I put the criteria in the stuff that I sent you, but I need to update that application because it really doesn't match the criteria very well. So I just wanted to mention that to those of you who are trying to work on getting those volunteer SOE levels, that I'm going to try to make that match better so it's not so confusing. Do you have any questions on standards of excellence? And if you think of it later, you're welcome to chime in. If we get done before 8:30, then, we'll have some time for questions. All right, Central Florida Fair. So, what's the same? Now, I'm only talking about the exhibits, not talking about the livestock stuff. That's a whole nother world. And those of you who are involved in it, all that. And Jackie's been communicating with you guys. But this is in the exhibit building. I've been told we're going to get moved up where we're closer to the midway, which is nice. Maybe we'll get some more traffic in there, but we're still going to have our member exhibits, which are those trifold project boards. We're still going to have all the photography categories that feed into the Florida 4-H state photography contest. And we're still going to have our 3 categories of posters. We added Florida agriculture last year. So we have project, promoting 4-H, and Florida agriculture. And then we're still going to have our game boards, which are those electronic boards that we have a workshop for to help the kids know how to wire them and to build those. And that's on our calendar of events. But we're adding some things. So this year we added some premiums for the Best in Show, thanks to the Orange County Farm Bureau. They also sponsored this neat kind of display that we were able to put together this past year. They helped pay for that. But we're going to be adding club exhibits with a $200 premium this year. We're going to get with you a little bit more about what that's going to look like, but it's going to be kind of a floor and side and back wall space for you to decorate and fill. All about something about your club, a project you work on, or the projects the kids do, or maybe it's a community service project or something related to your 4-H club that you're going to educate the public about what you all do. And there'll be 5 of those. So it's going to be the first 5 people, but they'll be, as long as all of the criteria are met for the display, a $200 premium to the club. All right, moving on. 4-H Showcase. I wish I had a better picture of this, but I had to borrow a picture from somebody because there are more than what you can see here. But these are when we have our trifolds, our game boards, and all our photography at the exhibit hall. So a lot of the things that kids do for the fair, they can also pop over and display it for 4-H Showcase and get, double recognition. But also that when we have our showcase day, which is a Wednesday afternoon into the evening a little bit, is when we also have our public speaking, our Share the Fun talent show, and our demonstrations and illustrated talks. And the kids come in and they do their presentations, and we present the awards in the auditorium. And the juniors, intermediates, and seniors in those last 3 things there can move on to district events, which is also held at our office. So I feel like a lot of people miss out on this and don't take advantage of this great opportunity to have your kids really grow and just bloom, and especially your senior 4-Hers that can go on to state. We win. We have kids that win at state every year, and you want to make sure, we really want to make sure that they're taking advantage of those opportunities. Does anyone have any questions about Showcase? Okay. So state opportunities. A few of our kids have gotten a little deeper in, but this first page, our first slide here, is to kind of show you some volunteer things that are there. So you could scan this QR code with your phone if you want to. I am going to try to go to the page. Actually, I think I might already have it open. I'm going to stop sharing and see if I have it or I can open it. Now I gotta queue it up.
While you're looking for that, I was going to share the record books. To the club leaders, we have some club leaders who already take advantage of this, but if you would like for us to print off the record book, copies of them, put them into the folder, and you can come pick them up, we can provide copies. That's not an issue. Just send us an email, give us some time, and we can prepare those for you.
Yeah, the project reports, we can get those all ready for you guys. So you don't have to print them all out. They are available on the volunteer website, but we can, do that printing for you. So this is the homepage for the Florida 4-H, and Beyond Ready is the new big national theme, and the focus of it is getting our kids ready for adulthood, getting them ready for the world of work, and being even beyond ready through their 4-H involvement. But this, I'm going to go to the hamburger menu here, I guess. Yeah, it's a little bit compressed. So if you go to Get Involved, this is where you can find, and hopefully it's following, and you're seeing these little compressed menus, and I'm clicking volunteer and then learn more. So, oh no, what happened there? Why is this doing this to me? All right, I'm going to do this a different way. I don't know why that link isn't working, so I'm going to go this way. So you'll have to tell me, do you guys see now can you all see the become a volunteer and the picture of the whole group of people? Did it follow? No, it still says it still has my slide set. Oh man, that is frustrating when it does that. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Sometimes it seems like you can get it to follow what you're doing, and then other times you can't. Okay, how about now? Do y'all see the, okay, good. All right, so this was the State Volunteer Leader Forum. It's every 2 years, so it was the summer before last. And there's me, and here are some Orange County volunteers that went. It was a really good program, lots of great workshops. They learned a lot, they enjoyed it, and oh my gosh, catered local restaurants like for every meal. It was the food was really good. So we will be doing it again in August, and I would encourage you guys to get involved, to maybe consider going to it. It's a good time, and some really good keynote speakers. But here we have a couple of different things. So if we go over to volunteer resources, same picture, but different things down here. Florida 4-H policies and procedures, that one, man, that's where you've got everything under the sun about 4-H. Like I'll have people ask about the age kids can be like before they have to leave 4-H, and social media policies, and just a lot of different things. That's a really good document. And if you go to it from here, you're always reading the most recent one. So I purposely don't download it to the volunteer website because they've asked us not to do that, because they want to make sure that people are always looking at the most recent updated one. There's links here for risk management insurance, which would have like accident, reports, and if you want to submit for insurance claims, I mentioned that. There's a few things here that, you can explore this, but if we go back here, this gives you some other, there's a really cool conference in October that's in Georgia at Rock Eagle Camp, which is, wow, an amazing camp. It's beautiful. It's on a lake, and there are hundreds of volunteers from all over. It's not just the southern states that go to it and do workshops, and just kind of a cool thing, but I don't know if you guys would want to do that on the fly there, but it's a really fun opportunity. So those are there, but I also have, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. There's one more place where you can go, and this QR code will take you there. And there are various like trainings and modules that you can go through. And I think I might have mentioned those because I think I also have a link to this through our website, but this gives you at least a little redundancy that you know there's some different places that you can go to get to these things. So more resources there for learning. And then EDIS, Ask IFAS. So this, by the way, has information for everything under the sun. You know, any questions you have about your plants, about your animals, about you know, food, about diet, about health, about, I mean, there's tons and tons of resources here. So this might be a link. That's why I sent you all the actual PowerPoint that you could click in it in case you want to go there. And then the IFAS Books 4-H has some Florida 4-H swag and some things like that in case you're interested in that. So I'm going to keep moving because, you know, we're after 8. And then another opportunity that some of you all, some of your kids might have taken advantage of are some of the state virtual clubs. When you go to enroll, if you look at all the other clubs, and usually we just go to our club and we click it and we choose it and we move on. But there are some state level virtual clubs that your kids can join in addition to your club. We've got the Florida 4-H Food Challenge one where they're doing some training and the kids are learning about cooking skills. They find out ahead of time what stuff they have to have ready, and we'd love to get a food challenge team going in Orange County. And then there's a virtual poultry club that's very popular in Work Ready Florida, which is helping some kids get industry certifications in various things. So, you know, don't, you know, forget about some other opportunities here that the kids might want to do. And I would like to mention, we are trying to get everybody who wants to do the citrus project. It's a district-wide thing to get them signed up soon because the trees are going to be distributed in 2 weeks. But that club is essentially going to be a virtual Zoom meeting district-wide, which is 5 counties, with some workshops and field trips. So if you have any kids that are looking for something related to that, and that's not something you all support, send them that way. They sign up, they buy their tree, they get their tree in Lake County, and then they can follow along with the project with kids from around the district and actually attend meetings virtually. All right. And then state 4-H events. I'm not going to go back to that website, but if you are on that Florida 4-H website, if you choose youth, then you can follow this other path. And there are so many different events that your kids can get involved in and learn and go deeper about projects. You know, like even if you're doing livestock, they have the hog and ham, they have livestock judging, and they have meats judging, and they have you know, contests related to those and clinics related to those. And then there's all the archery competitions. iLead is for intermediate kids to go to UF and have a leadership weekend up there in the summer. 4-H legislature in Tallahassee, 4-H University at UF. 4-H Day at the Capitol in January, where all the kids are in green and they go and they talk to the legislators and tell them all the wonderful things 4-H is doing. So please, you know, just take a look at those kinds of things, and maybe you might, you know, find you've got some kids that would really enjoy participating in this and get something out of it. All right, so before I start talking about thriving, because this is kind of my last topic, or probably going to get done a little sooner, like I said, with our online, because we don't have quite as much discussion. Does anybody want to jump in with anything? Is there anything in the chat, Giselle, that I need to address?
Nothing in the chat,
Okay,
except I've been adding those links. So the Florida volunteer resource link, I added that as well.
thank you. That's perfect. All right, so I don't know how many of you have seen this graphic, but this is something that National 4-H came up with a year or two ago, but they're really, really launching it now as our model of how we look at youth development, why we do what we do, helping kids thrive. It doesn't matter if they're doing robots, if they're doing horses, if they're doing archery, if they're doing livestock, growing plants, whatever they're doing, it doesn't matter. The point is we want them to grow into productive, capable, thriving adults. And we know that science and research is telling us that there are certain indicators that we know if we see these indicators, they are likely on that trajectory to thrive. And then working backwards, we're going to talk about what our role is in making that happen for kids. So these long-term outcomes that we have here at the top, these are the things that we see when they're adults. We don't, I shouldn't say we never get to see that, because sometimes we do. We see, like, our former 4-Hers that are, gone on to grad school and are now, managing a camp in Virginia, and just, like, just this is just an example of one of our former 4-Hers that even in the 8 years I've been here have seen, and I've got, kids that when I was the first time I was a 4-H agent in my 20s, and definitely, seen so many of them go on to thrive and do amazing things. But we don't always get to see that. But this is what it looks like. These are the things we want. We want our kids to be engaged in their communities, and they're more likely to be that way because we've taught them to be that way. We've given them those opportunities to do that. Hey, this is a thing we can do. This is how we look and see what our community needs. And I have a voice, and I want to use my voice to make a difference and to help people. And, obviously employability and economic stability. Their kids are learning a lot of employment skills. They may be getting specific skills, say in engineering, in, exploding bacon, but they also might in any club be getting teamwork and communication and public speaking. My goodness, a lot of kids don't get those public speaking opportunities. And so a lot of people are very nervous about getting up in front of a group. Not our 4-Hers. They're comfortable doing that. They're comfortable leading a meeting. They know how to use Robert's Rules of Order. They know how to make a motion. So these are things that opportunities that we provide them to help them get to that place. So those developmental outcomes, the results of the things we do, are these things, the positive academic attitude, social competence, personal standards, connection with others. So these are the things that lead to what we see in adulthood. But kind of getting a little further down in our list here is looking at what are the things we see in 4-H. So we see, do we have kids that are open to challenge and discovery? Sometimes they come into 4-H and they're tentative, and they're like, I'm not really, willing to try. I don't want to fail. I don't want to look funny. I don't want people to, think I'm dumb because I can't do this thing. But they quickly realize that that's not the culture of 4-H. The culture of 4-H is to be encouraged to try new things and to celebrate that, and whatever level they're at with that, and to have kind of that, we call that hopeful purpose, that they know, hey, I'm working hard on this thing. I've set these goals, and I know that I can reach this place. I can get to that level because I've done this, and I know I can get there, and I have a plan for how I'm going to get there. And that goal setting and self-management is so important. But this developmental context, this is kind of where we spend our time. And I think I'm going to go on a little bit here. I did have some kind of a little bit of elaboration here that what these indicators are is part of what we call positive youth development. And that's our PYD, is our big thing in 4-H, that doing things with kids isn't enough. We have to do it a certain way. And when we do it a certain way and we have certain elements present, we know that we get these positive outcomes. And research has shown that 4-Hers, there's a lot of things they are more likely to be involved in and more likely to be doing, and less likely to be doing some of those negative things when we have this positive youth development setting. So the things that we're trying to do is we're engaging them, we're elevating their voice. You'll hear us say all the time, hey, the club, this is the kids club. They need to vote on what they want to do. They need to vote on what their goals are, how they want to spend their money. Let them have that youth voice. Encourage them to be involved in the community through community service projects and those leadership skills. But this developmental context, this is the dirt. I say we're getting down in the dirt. What are the things we're doing? Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I don't want to jump in, but on one hand, I do. Um, these things you're talking about, Melinda, as someone who's worked in education, either as a teacher or a principal for over 30 years, I have never seen a more supportive group of high school students. For example, at 4-H University, I spend a week with them 24/7. For those of you who, may be hesitant about sending your child to 4-H University or any 4-H overnight event, please send them. Again, 30 years of experience working with high school students, I have never seen a more supportive group of young men and women than I have at 4-H events.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I know I'm the 4-H agent, so I appreciate it when someone else says it because, that's what I do for a living. But I also was a 4-Her and went to those events, and my own kids, have been 4-Hers. So, and then of course, Sarah's got her second one. It's a senior in high school this year now, so this is her final year with her being in 4-H. But she's gone, to 4-H University, and Karen's been involved in a lot of things. So there's just so much for them to benefit from. But the things that we want to make sure at, if you don't want to get into that whole, esoteric, kind of educational things, is we want these 4 things. So the sparks, what is their spark? So last night, we kind of opened up the floor, and I know it's a little awkward in Zoom for people to say that. You could throw some things in the chat if you wanted to, but essentially its spark is what gets the kids excited. What do they want to do that they're motivated to set goals to learn more about? They're motivated, like Mr. Larry last night said. He said they want to get that arrow in the middle of the target. And I said, yes, that's their spark in archery. They want to get better at archery. And then maybe it's going to even expand beyond that. My spark when I was a 4-Her, when I got involved, was horses. I loved horses. I rode horses, and that's what got me in. And then after that, my 4-H club leader got me doing public speaking and going to the Washington trip and, and doing all these other things that I would never have imagined. But the spark is what got me there. So super important, cannot drive belonging home enough. And Sarah definitely hit that nail on the head. Humans need a place to belong. We all need a sense of belonging. It's a core need for humans. But we want to make sure that they are finding that in the right places. And so that sense of belonging that we can provide for them, that you can provide as a leader, greeting the kids, smiling the kids, knowing their name, asking how something went that they had coming up, since the last time you saw them, that you care about their lives and what's going on with them, but also that the other kids give them that, sense of belonging, that this is a safe place where I can share and I'm comfortable doing that. And I know that my opinions matter and my voice matters. I can't, like I said, I can't emphasize that enough. And we do in Florida 4-H that is core. If we want a family to stay in 4-H, that's the main thing that's got to happen that first year. If they do not have that sense of belonging, they aren't going to stay. And so, like I said, I've kind of beaten that one down enough, but sense of belonging. And then those developmental relationships. So not just the relationships among youth, but you, caring adults. All of us that are raising kids know that we are not the only important adults in their lives. And that many of us have strategically made sure that there are other important, influential adults in our kids' lives. Because sometimes we can say the same thing over and over again, and they don't hear it, but some other adult says it, and you're like, really? I've been saying that 10 times. But they got it from that other person. But those other caring adults in their lives, very, very important to helping them on that trajectory to thrive. And then finally, engaging. So one and done, they just sit in a club meeting and then they never do anything else. They're not going to get to that. They're not really going to get that benefit of 4-H. So we want to engage them in so much more. And that's why we have our record books and our SOEs and our workshops and the kickoff and all of these things that, yes, they have what, kind of the purpose that maybe on the surface we see, but they also have a deeper purpose of getting kids engaged, getting them connected. So, um, there's my there's my speech for 4-H thriving. It's just kind of a scratching the surface of that model, but I want to make sure that kind of we're all looking at that and thinking about making sure we have the sparks, the belonging, those relationships with you and the youth, the other adults, with them, with each other, and trying to, encourage them to that deeper engagement in their 4-H experience. Um, so I want to wrap up. I've got a couple more slides here and then I can open it up to questions. So want to remind everybody about the kickoff. We're going to be sending out, I don't think we've sent out the invite yet to sign up for kickoff, but we are. That's going to be in the newsletter, which is going to be going out a week from or by a week from tomorrow, for sure next week. National 4-H Week. It happens really fast. See if your clubs can do something. The kids wear green to school, or, they go, there's something that they do, put some signs up in their yard or whatever, National 4-H Week. We are going to be doing a proclamation at the county level. I'm not sure how many people can attend that yet, though. So before I say, hey, everybody, come, I have to find out. I don't think we're allowed to have like a ton of people at that. And then we're going to be doing a club officer training at that our leadership club officers are going to be primarily leading. And that's for your club officers to attend. So if they would like to attend and do some team building, learn some icebreakers, learn a little bit of Robert's Rules of Order, a little bit more about the role that they have in their club, we're going to try to make it very fun and engaging. It's going to be a couple hours on a Saturday. Think about, putting that on your calendar and encouraging your kids to come. We've got Peanut Butter Challenge. That's going to be the month of October. And Melanie, yes.
The date of the officer training is when we have a state archery match.
I know.
So I'm curious, will there be any sort of materials or things that we could, I don't know that it would be recorded because it's probably in person, but anything we could utilize to pass on maybe?
I mean, we have some written things. We're not going to focus too much on that part, but what I would say, and I know I feel bad about that, it's so hard. It's like no matter what weekend you pick, there's going to be something, right?
Right.
There's something like every weekend in October, whether it's a horse show or whether it's kickoff, or there's that, and then there's something at the, then Halloween at the end or whatever. But the one of those sites that I showed you, that e-learning site or that extension learning, there were little modules in there for officers.
Okay.
It's not quite as fun as, doing the engaging stuff, but I get it. I know you guys are going to an archery competition.
Okay, thanks.
We'll miss you. But the peanut butter challenge is going to be that month of October. Technically, it starts September 29th, but we have the month of October and we'll be doing the same thing, clubs competing for who gets the most. But mainly we want to collect peanut butter for food pantries, and then the kids will be delivering it. Poinsettia sales, I've got to get my act together and get all that stuff ready because we're going to start selling October 1 also through November 7th. And that money is shared. So the clubs get half the profit, the association gets half the profit, but it's really a win-win for the kids because the money that goes to the association goes directly back to the kids in Standards of Excellence Clover dollars and scholarships to go to 4-H University and legislature and other 4-H events. They can apply for money to support going to, a showmanship clinic or, whatever. But they have to sell poinsettias to be eligible for that support from the association. So they have to kind of help be part of the fundraiser to be able to benefit from it.
Melinda,
And then, yes.
Can I also mention that youth leadership is still collecting plastic, and we are doing that still through the end of December. So we've got a little over 300 pounds. We need to get to 1,000. I've got a neighbor who's bringing us a lot of plastic now, but we really could use the help. It's got to be clean, not wet. We have the bin in the 4-H or not gymnasium, the main building there when you walk in.
The exhibit hall, yep.
Yeah, exhibit hall. If you guys could just please bring plastic or tell others to bring, it's just the plastic wrap. So like plastic grocery bags, toilet paper wrapper from Costco, paper towels, what else? Amazon plastic packages, any of that kind of plastic, the soft plastic packaging around lettuce or vegetables at the store. All of that is recyclable plastic.
Yes. So we have, like I said, been back in the 4-H area in the exhibit hall. Bring it by. We'd, really, really appreciate it. Maybe kickoff, maybe collect it in your garage and bring some at kickoff. That would be, a great time if you're not over at our office other times. So another new thing that I think I forgot to even mention last night is some of the money we got from Farm Bureau is going to go towards matching mini grants for clubs. So if you have a project that you want to work on, maybe it's an educational thing, or maybe it's a service project, and you want some matching dollars, we're going to do matching grants up to $250, but the kids would have to complete an application and they would have to say, where their matching money is coming from. Maybe it's from money your club already has, maybe it's going to be from poinsettia money or, donations. And then just to kind of maybe jumpstart some of the clubs that don't have a lot of money to work with, that they could do something, just has to have an educational purpose. Ron, did you have a question on that one? No? Okay, I wasn't sure. Sometimes when people light up, it means that they're unmuting. All right, so I am going to go to the last slide here, which is asking you to please do our survey. I really, really appreciate it. So we know if this is beneficial, if you learned anything. It's anonymous, so well, I think it is. It does have emails on it, but I promise I don't look to see who did what. I just download the spreadsheet and look at the results. But if you could scan that and do that for me, that would be great. And then I'm just gonna well, I gotta leave this up so you all can get the QR code. But if you've got any questions, please just go ahead and unmute. And if not, once you've scanned the code and you bounce off, that's fine. That pretty much wraps up what I wanted to share this evening and got us done before 8:30. Thank you, Giselle, for managing the chat, and for Rhonda for helping teach, and for all of you all spending a couple hours staring at your computer and listening to me. I appreciate it. Let us know what we can do for you. I would like to mention that our 4-H, the other 4-H agent position, that position closes on the 3rd. And hopefully Kevin's hoping to have some interviews like the second week of September and do the public presentation in our office that you all can attend, like maybe that last week of September, but we'll see. We'll let you know for sure. But hopefully we're going to have some help in the office, because it's been a lot. Doing everything without that second person. I've definitely been missing Aaron, that's for sure.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
This is Shayna Carson. I'm from Sit 2. Is there a preferred vendor for ordering t-shirts? And for t-shirts, just because we have a lot of new members starting last year, and I'd love to get some like little horse show shirts so we can all, look adorable. Is there, if I reach out to you or Giselle, is that something you guys could assist with, or does it need to be approved? Like, I'm sure there's a process.
Really for t-shirt vendors, it's who you'd like to use. We can tell you, I can tell you who I've used from my camp shirts that's very reasonable. if you're looking, because you're probably not getting a lot of shirts. So they,
No.
yeah, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but I could definitely look up who that vendor was that we used. So there really isn't, it's not like kind of like, when you're working within government, you have to use only the approved vendors. You can use who you'd like, or
Okay.
and I've done the designs just on Canva. So I don't know if want maybe let the kids play around with that. The Area East, every year has that contest where the kids come up with a design, and their design gets to be on the shirt, whoever gets picked.
Yeah, we'll bring that up at our first meeting, and I'll email you for that vendor referral. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome. Anything else?
Thank you.
I would just say to everyone, remember that we're here all year to answer your questions. And if you have anything, or you're not sure, you could just reach out to us and we'll guide you.